What's up, guys? It is Underdog MLB, and welcome to episode 1 of Rounding the Bases podcast. This is a new series that I'm doing on the channel, and we've got 4 people here, 3 friends of mine, 3 Cubs fans, and 1 White Sox fan. So we got a little bit of a crosstown rivalry. We're going to give you the different perspectives on what's going on, especially in Chicago baseball and as well in all of baseball. And we've got a list of topics relating to the All-Star game and the halfway point of the season and the trade deadline. So we're going to be talking about all of it here today. I hope you guys enjoy this podcast. And let's hop right in with topic number 1, which is the awards predictions. Anyone want to start out with who they think is going to win some awards? You got some dark horse picks, maybe?
My name is Ben, also known as Avexneo, if you see me in Kevin's chat section. So, we're talking about award predictions right now, and I'm going to go ahead and start with the Cy Young. For the NL, I do think it's going to stay Jacob deGrom. I think he's just going to be able to hold on and win that, and I have full confidence in him. And in the AL, I am a Yankees fan, so this is a bit of a biased pick, but I'm going to go ahead and say Garrett Cole. He's having a really good season. I know guys like Lance Lynn and Carlos Rodon are doing better right now, but I think long-term Cole's performance is going to be a bit more sustainable. And that's also, I'm biased, so I'm going to go ahead and pick Garrett Cole. For MVP picks, in the AL, I have to go with Shohei Ohtani. I know Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is crazy. He's having a great season. But the fact that Shohei Ohtani is hitting at a crazy level, 1,000 OPS, 33 homers, and also pitching, not just pitching, but pitching pretty damn well, I have to say, if he does that, Shohei Ohtani's easily going to be able to win the MVP. And in the National League, I don't know if this is a dark horse or not. I don't really think it is. But I think that... my pick is, my realistic prediction is probably Fernando Tatis Jr. is gonna keep playing great and win the MVP. However, kind of my more dark horse pick is that Jacob deGrom is gonna pitch so great that he's actually going to win the MVP. So there you go.
I'm going to echo Ben right here. I personally think deGrom has a great chance to win MVP. He's been on record pace this year. At the time we're recording this, I believe he has the lowest ERA in a single season for a modern era pitcher, below Bob Gibson's 1.12 ERA in 1968. And I don't know that he's going to necessarily keep that up. He has to be absolutely insane. He has to stay healthy, and he has to keep up that level of dominance. But if he can keep his ERA where it's at right now through the end of the season, he would be my MVP pick. He would be who I would personally vote for. And I would not be at all surprised if he takes it home. But Tatis has been impressive this year. Although his defense has definitely left a lot to be desired, I think he's definitely the 1-2 there with deGrom. And we could end up seeing 2 pitchers as MVPs, which would really be quite something. And then as far as Cy Youngs go, obviously deGrom's winning in the NL. Unless something crazy happens, I don't see that changing at all. Again, barring any injuries, because he has had some health scares this year. And then the AL Cy Young, it really could be up in the air. I personally think Garrett Cole is going to pitch himself out of Cy Young contention by the end of the year with the whole sticky stuff scandal. I could be proven wrong. But personally, I got my money on Lance Lynn. He just seems to go out there every 5 days and put up just a great performance every single time. He is my pick for the Cy Young.
I'm Tyler, and I like the Yankees. No, I'm just kidding. I like the Sox. So, AL Cy Young, Garrett Cole sucks without the foreign substances. Come on. It's Carlos Rodon or Lance Lynn, Ben. And Lance Lynn's going to win the AL Cy Young. AL MVP, it's either going to be Vlad or Ohtani. I think Ohtani will win, but look out for Cedric Mullins, the GOAT. Anyway, NL MVP is Jacob deGrom. No one's going to touch him. And NL Cy Young is going to be Jacob deGrom.
All right, Nate, known as FTC Wrecking in the chat. I think NL Cy Young, fairly obvious. Going with the group, Jacob deGrom. AL Cy Young, much as it pains me as a Cubs fan, it's Lance Lynn for me. I think I'd like to see Carlos Rodon win that just because of his story with all his injuries, but I think Lynn will hang on to it. NL MVP, realistically, it's deGrom's award, but I really kind of have an odd feeling that Trey Turner is going to explode in the second half and go crazy. He's got great stats so far, nothing MVP level, but if he had a crazy hot second half, he could definitely pull that off. In AL MVP, I'm going to have to go Shohei Ohtani. I mean, he's an animal. The only way I see him losing that is if Vlad catches up and wins the Triple Crown.
I know for obvious reason there are concerns about Garrett Cole and sticky tack. I get that, but I want to acknowledge that in one of the Yankees' last games before the All-Star break, he threw a 129-pitch complete game shutout against the Astros. So I understand picking Lance Lynn or Carlos Rodon to win instead, but don't think Garrett Cole's going to fall apart because he's going to be great in the second half. And I agree with the Trey Turner pick as a bold prediction. I kind of like that.
I think Garrett Cole's coming out in the second half with something to prove. I think that, he's received a lot of feedback the last month or so, and he's the type of pitcher that's going to respond positively to that sort of criticism. I think he could end up bouncing back from this, but it just remains to be seen. This is all so new, and we don't have any precedent to go off.
All right, let me explain. This is why Lance Lynn wins the Cy Young.
Oh, no.
The White Sox have a terrible division. We play no good lineups except the Twins, and that's once in a while. The Garrett Cole goes against stacked teams every night, and Lance Lynn is fat, so he just wants a Cy Young. That's money on his next contract. Lance Lynn needs money. He's gonna get bigger and better, and he plays worse teams. Lance Lynn's winning it. It's no question.
That's actually kind of a good point, though.
I fully agree with the Garrett Cole sticky stuff. I think he will have a good second half of the season. I don't think sticky stuff made him. I think it obviously benefited him as it did any pitcher, but I believe that he'll have a strong second half, but I don't think he's going to do enough to reclaim the Cy Young honors.
I think the big key for the people that have been in the whole sticky stuff scandal is they've been sort of getting away with throwing pitches down the middle because they have so much movement and spin rate. And now that people's spin rates have gone down, they have to really readjust the way they attack hitters, and they have to pitch to like 4 quadrants of the zone instead of just throwing the ball down the middle and expecting to get away with it. So I think it's more of an approach.
That closer in New York, that guy, you know what I'm talking about. Ben, you know his name?
Which one?
That closer,
Is he
closer in New York?
player?
Yeah, Yankees player, closer in New York.
No, I don't know the Yankees closer.
You don't know?
Sorry.
I wonder if he throws hard.
I
wonder if he throws hard.
Yeah, I wonder if he throws hard.
All right.
Might be able to throw over 100 now and then.
All right, moving on from the awards conversation. Next, we're going to talk about the prediction for the best team in the second half. Someone that is maybe going to surge ahead of a predicted division leader or seize hold of a division that doesn't have a clear favorite at the moment. And this is kind of just a shot in the dark as who we think is going to surprise the most people. So, Nate, who do you have as your second half dark horse?
Not much of a dark horse, but I think the team with the best record in the second half of the season in the American League will be the Chicago White Sox. I mean, I think at the moment they, I believe, have the best record in the American League regardless of division. They're not in a particularly strong division. They obviously have that great pitching staff, and they have a ton of big pieces in the lineup coming back. Eloy Jimenez has been doing well in a AAA rehab. I believe Robert's been cleared for one. Nick Madrigal will be shut down for the season, which is a big loss, but I believe they're going to make a buyer's move and maybe add a player at the deadline here. Hopefully somebody to bolster their lineup. I think an NL team that will have the best record for the rest of the season is the Los Angeles Dodgers. It's not very bold. That roster is just so good. I think they'll get healthy and they have a good pitching staff, especially if the whole Bauer situation gets resolved and he can come back and pitch a strong second half.
I think in the AL, who will have the best record and who will be playing the best ball going into the playoffs won't be the same team. I think the Sox will have the best record, but I think the Yankees are going to be playing the best baseball going into the playoffs. I think they're going to start surging. They're not this bad, I don't think. And in the NL, I think the Dodgers will probably have the best second half record, but I think the Mets are going to start surging also.
So starting with the AL, I agree with what Tyler said. I think he put it perfectly. I think the team with the best record is probably going to be the Sox, but I do, as a Yankees fan, think the Yankees are going to probably have the hottest second half. If that makes sense. They won't. I don't think they'll win the division, but I think they're going to get really hot and play good baseball heading into playoffs and just at least grab a playoff spot. Though they could theoretically contend for the division. And in the National League, I'll do the same kind of split. I think the Los Angeles Dodgers are going to have the best record in the second half. I think they are going to take back the NL West. That roster is just too good. But for a team that's going to play hot baseball, in the NL in the second half. I'm going to kind of go out on a limb here and say I like a lot the Cincinnati Reds to win the NL Central potentially. It's going to be tight with the Brewers, who have obviously a fantastic pitching staff. But I think if the Reds' offense continues to stay hot with guys like Castellanos and Jesse Winker, I think they are going to grab a playoff spot, and I think they have a decent chance to win the division as well.
All right, and personally, I have my eye on a couple of teams in the American League, and these are some more dark horse teams that I think could end up having strong second halves. One of them is going to be the Toronto Blue Jays. I think they really have one of the best offenses in baseball with Vlad Jr., Simeon, Biggio, Bo Bichette, Teoscar Hernandez, Alejandro Kirk. They really have a stacked offense. And their pitching staff is really young, and they've got a lot of bright stars in there as well. Robbie Ray having a good year. Alek Manoah is a really talented young prospect. And then I think also the Angels, they also have a great offense, especially if Mike Trout comes back healthy and continues to do what he does. Shohei Ohtani has been the best player in baseball this year, in my opinion. Jared Walsh is one of the most underrated players in baseball. They have Anthony Rendon, who, he's been having a down year, but has a proven track record of success. And I think the Angels have some of the best players in baseball. The thing about them, though, is they are top heavy, but if they can get everybody from their team healthy at one time, I think they could really surprise a lot of people. The thing about both of those teams is that their pitching staffs are a little bit weaker, but I think if they make some smart moves at the deadline, maybe trade for a Craig Kimbrell or some starting pitcher that's on the market, I think they could be in a really prime position to make a run. And speaking of players that might end up getting moved to help a contending team in this second half, next part of our podcast that we wanted to touch on is players who we think is going to possibly get traded over this next trade deadline. And obviously, it's going to be a crazy next couple of weeks. It's about 2 weeks until the deadline when we're recording this, and there's a lot of names swirling around in trade rumors. So we're just going to basically say the team that we think each player is going to go to. There's not really going to be much specific other than just like this team has this need and this player could fit that need. So we're going to start off with Trevor Story, Rocky shortstop, obviously put up a show in the home run derby. He's having a bit of a down year, but Tyler, do you think that he would be a good fit for the White Sox? I know that you've been campaigning for him to go to the South Side. Do you still think that that's where he might end up?
I think if the Sox really want him, they can get him. But I think they have other options that are, like, more priceable, I guess, or, like, affordable, I guess. And I think he will end up on the Oakland A's.
I like the Oakland A's as a pick, but I agree that Tyler said the Sox, they could get him if they wanted to, but I think they're going to look elsewhere. I think the A's are a good pick. I could also see the Atlanta Braves being the ones to land him.
I agree with the Trevor Story to the A's. I think that's a good move for them. I also do think that, obviously, with a lot of contenders, shortstop's not really a highly touted position at the deadline. The market for shortstop's kind of a little dry outside of Story, not very many options out there. So I do think we could see Trevor Story play second base, and I think a lot of teams would potentially have that as an option, White Sox being one of them.
I think Trevor Story, one team that hasn't been super linked to him so far, but I think he'd be a great fit for them if he were willing to move to second base, would be the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah.
He's very powerful. He's definitely capable of going yard over the Green Monster. And right now, the Red Sox don't really have a surefire option at second base. Obviously, they have Xander Bogaerts at shortstop, and he's not going anywhere. But if he was willing to move to second base, I think that'd be a smart move for the Red Sox.
All right, let me introduce this next player. All right, here we go. All right, Cubs fans. This next player is someone near and dear to your hearts. A Chicago legend, some people would say. But he's gone. He's gone. Just like your World Series window. Kevin, where's Chris Bryant going?
Personally, I could go 50-50 on whether Chris Bryant is going to stay or leave. Because obviously he is the best, at least this year, but I also think just overall, he's the best out of that core group of him, Rizzo, Baez, Wilson Contreras maybe. So I don't know if they're going to keep him to try and build around him or if they're going to trade him and then sign him back in the offseason or maybe even try to extend him in the next couple of weeks. There's so many different paths they could go to. I don't know which one is the correct path. I don't know which one I want them to do, and I certainly don't know which one they're leaning towards right now. But if I had to guess, I do think he's going to be gone by the deadline. And I think a team that could snag Chris Bryant is possibly the Atlanta Braves, especially with Ronald Acuna gone. I know the Cubs just traded Jock Peterson to the Braves, unfortunately. So there's already some action between those two teams at the deadline. And I know the Braves are looking to shore up their outfield depth with Ronald Acuna going down just a couple days ago. I think he might be a good fit. Austin Riley, he's young, and they might want to rest him a little bit going into the playoffs so he can play third base as well. I think his versatility could fit well there.
I certainly agree. I think that's a decent spot for him. I mean, Chris Bryant has a number of fits with all the positions he can play. I can definitely see him playing every single outfield spot and obviously third base. I don't think it would be the best idea to run him as an everyday first baseman. I think he's definitely serviceable as a platoon option and like a backup if you need to give somebody a day off. I don't think he's quite as good defensively over there as the other spots, but I think the Braves would be a solid option. But I'm actually going to go with a different NL East team, and not the one a lot of people are hearing with the New York Mets. I'm going to say the Philadelphia Phillies.
Ooh.
They have a lot of money in the offseason coming off the books, I believe, with McCutchen, and I also believe they have a team option on Gregorius. I could be wrong about that, but Chris Bryant, obviously friends with Harper, Vegas boys. I think they could look to make a move for Bryant, try to re-sign him, and build a really strong core out there in Philly.
Okay, so I like these picks so far. Personally, I want to spice things up a bit, so I'm going to go ahead with kind of a bold prediction here. For Chris Bryant, this
He's
is a
going to say
team.
Bryant to the Yankees.
I'm not going to say Bryant to the Yankees. I'm warning you. That's not what I'm going to say. I don't think that's happening. I will say. This. The team I'm going to say is a team.
Chi-town!
It's not. It's a team that I already mentioned as having their problems are on the pitching side. They've already got a really good offense, including a really good infield. I don't think this is a question of a team that needs Chris Bryant. I think it's a question of a team that's going to want to add him, kind of fire things up, add to the team, and make a push for a playoff spot or potentially even the division this coming year. So it's kind of adding out of a want, not a need. And that team is going to be the Toronto Blue Jays.
I like that. That's a bold prediction, but
Yeah.
they've been aggressive going after Kirby Yates and doing a lot of stuff out there. Could be good.
All right, before I say my non-biased prediction, Kevin, Chris Bryant on the Braves, do they win the division?
I think the Braves certainly could win the division. They've got a very strong team. Obviously, losing Acuna is definitely going to hurt, but I don't think that the Mets are going to really expect to keep up the level of performance that they've got from Taijuan Walker, Marcus Stroman, and Jacob deGrom. They've all been amazing, and I don't think that they can expect to keep that up through the entire year. And obviously their offense has been scuffling a lot. Their run differential isn't super great. I think the Braves could easily overtake them.
All right, I think Chris Bryant will be a Met because he would re-sign there likely. He likes big cities, obviously. And that owner is mad rich. So yeah,
we're getting quite the back. It's not a very bold prediction, but definitely something I've been hearing, and definitely a possibility as I touched on. Heard that quite often. So
the next player we have to talk about is Adam Frazier of the Pittsburgh Pirates, a All-Star this year. He is having a late career resurgence, I guess you could say, because he's really not been anything before this year, but he's definitely drawing a lot of attention. And what do you guys think? Ben, we'll start with you. What do you think Adam Frazier is going to do at the deadline?
So I mentioned that when we talked about Trevor Story, I mentioned that the Chicago White Sox could get him, but they're not going to, and they're going to instead turn and look elsewhere, and I think that's what we're going to see here. I think instead of getting Story, they're going to go after still a very good player, but kind of I guess a cheaper and slightly more long-term option, and that's going to be Adam Frazier for the Chicago White Sox.
I think that Adam Frazier could be a White Sox, but since he has like multiple years of team control, I don't think the Sox are going to want him necessarily unless they trade him in the offseason because of Nick Madrigal coming back and being their long-term option, you'd assume. And I think he will end up staying, and they'll trade him next year.
Personally, I feel like Adam Frazier's value right now is the highest he'll ever be in his career, so there's no better time for the Pirates to trade him than right now. And obviously, every single team has made this mistake before where they think that they can continue to increase his value, and they're obviously not going to do that. So now's the time to trade Adam Frazier. I don't know where exactly he's going to go. I agree with Tyler. I don't think that the White Sox are the greatest fit for him, and I think Eduardo Escobar is going to end up going to the White Sox. Yeah. But I think Adam Frazier definitely should be moved at the deadline. That would be the smart choice for the Pirates.
I fully agree with that, Kevin. 100% agree with that. But I'm also going to agree with Tyler here and say the Pirates will make the mistake of doing that and not trade him, and he will be a Pirate at the start of next season.
Yeah, I think they're just going to screw up and not do it.
Next player we have to talk about is yet another Chicago Cub. This is going to be the elite closer, Craig Kimbrel, probable future Hall of Famer. At least that's what I would say, being a Cubs fan. But he is, without a doubt, the best closer in baseball right now. He is having the best year of his storied career, and he's going to be one of the most valuable, if not the most valuable player on the trade market. So what do you guys think? Ben, do you think that Kimbrel stays with the Cubs? He's got another year of team control most likely, or do you think now's the time to pull the trigger on a deal?
I think they are going to go ahead and pull the trigger on a Craig Kimbrel deal. Again, if the Cubs are gonna sell Kimbrel, if they're gonna try to take it apart and rebuild, his value is not ever going to be higher than it is right now, this second. So kind of similar to Adam Frazier, I think if they're going to trade him, they should just go ahead and do it now. And it pains me to say it, but I think he's going to go back to the Boston Red Sox and give them another late-end bullpen option.
I like that pick from Ben. I think if I had to pick a team in the American League, that's where I'd see him going. But I believe Craig Kimbrel will end up a New York Met. I think Ben won't like that one either, but I think the Mets need a lot of help on the back end of the bullpen, and I think he could be a good fit for them. I know there's a lot of Bryant rumors, but as you've already heard, I think Bryant will go to the Phillies, and I think the Mets could really unload a couple of prospects, get that back into the bullpen going, and put themselves in strong position to come out of the NL East.
I think that so a closer's job is like to get saves, right? And the Cubs, they don't win, so Craig Kimbrel isn't used anymore, so he's gone. And he's going to go to a team that wins, and I agree with Ben, it's going to be the Red Sox.
Personally, I don't know that Craig Kimbrel would be the best fit for the Red Sox. Obviously, the Red Sox are a team, and everybody's going to be, every single contender is obviously looking to shore up their bullpen. However, the Red Sox do have Matt Barnes, who is one of the top 10 closers in baseball this year. So one of the two of them would have to move into a setup role, and I doubt that would be Kimbrel. Maybe Matt Barnes would be willing to do that, but I don't know that for the price that Kimbrel would be, I don't know that the Red Sox would be willing to give that up. So a team that I think maybe could use a little bit of bullpen help, especially at the back end, would be the Cincinnati Reds. I don't know how about the Cubs feel about trading interdivision, but the Reds are definitely a team that is in the playoff hunt, and their bullpen is not super amazing. They don't have really a lockdown closer. I think he could be a good fit there.
I definitely agree with that fit. I don't see the trade happening because, like you said, interdivision, but I do think Kimbrel on the Reds would be a nice fit.
All right, so we've talked a lot about players that could potentially be acquired by the White Sox by the end of the month. And sticking with that theme, we got another middle infield type, as well as a third baseman, Eduardo Escobar, the Diamondbacks. I'm sure that the Diamondbacks will be selling this deadline. They are the worst team in baseball. They have really embarrassed themselves this year. I'm sorry if there's any Diamondbacks fans watching this, but you know that this is all the truth. Yeah. So I think the Diamondbacks are 100% going to be selling Eduardo Escobar, and I think if I had to guess, I think he goes to the White Sox because he is a one-year rental. The White Sox do need somebody at second base, and he can also give Moncada and Tim Anderson days off if they ever need something like that. So I think that he would just be a very, very good fit for that team.
I agree with Kevin because Tony La Russa loves giving his starters a ton of days off to rest them for October so he could play a bunch of positions. And he's a one-year rental for when Nick gets back. And he also has very good home run production and driving in runs, which is something the Sox struggle with right now with a lot of the middle of their lineup, obviously, on the shelf.
I'm going to go ahead and pick a different team here. This is an NL team. It is within the division, so I don't know how the Pirates feel about, or not, it's, never mind, we're not talking about Adam Frazier anymore. We're talking about Escobar, so it's not within division. And this is a team with been successful with a very strong pitching staff, but they need some more offensive players. I think that's the Milwaukee Brewers for me. That's where I see Eduardo Escobar going.
Now, where do you think Eduardo Escobar fits on the Brewers? Because obviously they have Colton Wong. Keston Hiura sometimes plays second base as well. They have newly acquired Willie Adames to play shortstop. Do you think he maybe goes at third base, or I don't really know. Who do the Brewers have at third base?
I could see Escobar. I could see Escobar playing third on a regular basis, but I could also see him getting some reps at second with Wong in the outfield, seeing as how much Keston Hiura is struggling this year.
Touching on what Ben said, I do kind of like that Brewers fit. I think Luis Urias to me is not the answer at third. I think that's a good pick, but I'm going to go along with what Tyler said, and I believe Kevin as well. The Chicago White Sox. I think Escobar is just a perfect fit for them. I know we talked about third base, middle infield. I think Escobar also has some potential, not great, but I think he does provide them with some potential to be an outfielder, even left field. Corners, I don't think center field would be a good spot for him, especially when you have so many good defensive outfielders on that team right now, but I think Escobar there would be great with his run production. He's an extra base hit machine, and the White Sox right now have a lot of table setters at the top of the lineup, but not very many guys to drive them in.
All right, next player is definitely a power hitter. We're going to be talking about Joey Gallo.
Let's go.
Personally, I have a little bit of a hot take. I don't know how much Joey Gallo has been rumored to this team. I know Tyler's going to be excited about this, but the White Sox do not have any outfielders right now at the moment, or maybe they have one, Adam Engel, just having come back from energy. Not energy.
Just having energy.
Adam Engel has just come back from injury, but they've been using infielders in the outfield. I think Joey Gallo as a one-year rental could be a very good fit for the White Sox. Obviously, they're going to be getting Eloy Jimenez and Luis Robert back, but I think that they could definitely use somebody like him.
Solid. First, I want to ask you about the White Sox outfield. I know we said Adam Frazier is potentially not a good fit long-term because of Nick Madrigal coming back, but Adam Frazier, and this is true for this year too, not just long-term, Adam Frazier has also played some outfield in his career. So I think it's possible he could get some reps in the outfield on some days for the White Sox. So just to add that in. But talking about Joey Gallo, this is a slightly biased pick, it's true, but I think he's 100% going to the New York Yankees. He's a left-handed power bat. Well, first of all, he's an outfielder, and we need more outfielders with Aaron Hicks on the IL out for the year. And he's also a left-handed power bat. The Yankees have the fewest home runs by left-handed hitters of any team over the past 2 years. They have no left-handed hitters. So we need that bat, and furthermore, he has one of the highest on-base percentages in the league, which is going to be a big help for a struggling Yankee lineup right now. So I've got Gallo to the Yankees.
See, I want to agree with Kevin. I'm tired of watching Danny Mendick, Gavin Sheets, Jake Berger play the outfield for me. But I don't think we're going to trade for Joey Gallo with Robert and Eloy possibly coming back, although it would still be a good fit in right field. But I think he could go to the Yankees as well, because I think the Yankees see themselves as 4 games out of the playoffs, and that's very doable when you have a roster like that. So I think that is a great fit as well.
All right, kind of going with what Kevin said with a bit of a spicy take. I don't know how often it's been rumored. I believe I've seen it a couple times, but not too often. I think Joey Gallo is going to end up on the San Diego Padres. I think the Padres could really add an extra bat, and that would put them really in that division to win games. I know they're a good team. They're competing in probably one of, if not the best divisions in baseball, up there with the AL East. But I do think that adding Joey Gallo to that team would be good for them. Obviously, in right field, I believe you have Will Myers playing right field every day. Will Myers does have some first base flexibility. I know Eric Hosmer, a little bit overpaid. They couldn't look to move that contract. I don't know how easy that would be for them. But I think Joey Gallo would be a good fit on that team. Can play outfield, maybe a little third or first base. Not great fits at those positions, but definitely has the arm for third. Definitely the athleticism for first. I think he's a good fit for the Padres.
All right, sticking with the Rangers, let's talk about the all-star Kyle Gibson having definitely a career year. ERA under 2.5. He's in Cy Young contention. What do you guys think about Kyle Gibson of the Rangers?
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and start off and say Kyle Gibson is definitely getting traded. The Rangers want to rebuild, and they need to rebuild, and Gibson's value is higher than it's ever going to be, obviously, right now. I think that goes without saying, really. But I think Kyle Gibson is also headed to the New York Yankees. They need with Severino could be coming back potentially soon, but they still need another pitcher to kind of round things out. And I think I don't know. I think this move just makes a lot of sense. I think Kyle Gibson can be that guy for the Yankees in the second half. I don't know if it's a package deal with Gallo or if it's two separate trades. That I'll let Brian Cashman figure that out. But I do think both Gallo and Gibson are going to find their way to the Yankees.
Personally, I think Kyle Gibson, I agree with you that he's a similar situation to Adam Frazier where his value is never going to be higher in his career, and you kind of have to trade him right now. I think a good fit for Kyle Gibson would possibly be the Toronto Blue Jays. They are an offensive-heavy team. They are struggling a little bit, and a pitcher like Kyle Gibson could definitely lift them. So I think, and I don't think he'll be too expensive either, given that he doesn't have a super long track record of success besides this year. So I think that Kyle Gibson to the Blue Jays might be a good fit.
I have a different pitcher going to the Blue Jays that we'll say later, but I think the Cincinnati Reds could possibly trade for Kyle Gibson if they think they have enough to make the playoffs with him. But if not, then I could see the Yankees as well with Joey Gallo.
Tyler and Kevin really just stole those words from my head. I was thinking Blue Jays would be a good fit for Kyle Gibson. I really like that trade. That's where I'd want to see Kyle Gibson go. But ultimately, I do think he's going to end up on the Cincinnati Reds. I think that offense is just too deadly to waste. If they can go out and get a pitcher pitching at an absolutely premium ace level right now, and they can do it for somewhat cheap because, as Kevin said, the lack of success on his track record, that would just be perfect for them. This lineup is too good to be wasted, and I think that team, really with a couple strong pitchers at the top of their rotation, could really make a push for the division.
All right, sticking in a similar vein, we're going to be talking about probably one of the other top starting pitchers that are going to be on the market. This is German Marquez, another All-Star. This one is from the Colorado Rockies, who, again, I believe he's on the last year of his contract, and the Rockies are not making the playoffs, so they're definitely going to probably be looking for offers to move him. And there are two teams that I think could use a little bit of starting pitching help that I didn't mention for Kyle Gibson because they're both in the same division as him. Obviously, intra-division trades usually don't work out very well, but I think given that these two AL West teams could need a starting pitcher, I think the Mariners and Angels could both be in the running for German Marquez. Obviously, the Mariners maybe less so because this is not like the year that they're trying to win it all this year, so they might not be willing to part with as much, but they are having a surprisingly good season, and I think if for the right price, German Marquez would be a good fit there, as well as the Angels, who definitely need some starting pitching help besides Shohei Ohtani. So I think those could be two landing spots for German Marquez.
I could see him going to the Blue Jays for the same reasons you said about Kyle Gibson. They just need a little push on the pitching staff, and they definitely have the lineup firepower.
See, for the starting pitchers like German Marquez and Kyle Gibson, I was thinking that before the Cubs had this giant collapse, those would be perfect fits for the Cubs because obviously up until that point, like the Cubs' really only weakness was starting pitching, and then of course everything collapsed. So now the Cubs are probably not going to be acquiring those guys, but those were guys that were on my radar before all of this happened. So it's a little upsetting that they can't get one of those guys now.
Ben's going to really love this one. I know we've talked about the Yankees a lot, but I don't see Kyle Gibson heading out there. I see German Marquez of the Rockies to the Yankees. Okay. I think that'd be a good move for them. I think obviously he's a good pitcher, just made the All-Star game. The Yankees, as we know, need some rotation help. Garrett Cole, as we previously talked about, I think he's going to have a good season, but I also don't think he's going to be able to get into that Cy Young race and really put himself forward for that award. I think they need another pitcher on that staff. Try to get back into the division. I personally don't think they have much of a chance, and I think they would in a lot of other divisions. But I think that division being so ultra competitive, I think it would be very hard for them to catch up. But we know the Yankees always buying, always spending money, always doing everything they can to win, and I think they'll go out and add a good pitcher in German Marquez.
See, I do like that, Nate. I would love either Kyle Gibson or German Marquez or both. I did pick Kyle Gibson to the Yankees, so I'm going to pick Marquez somewhere else. I had German Marquez to the LA Dodgers. With Trevor Bauer, let's just say, potentially out long term. That could be a really good fit there. However, I think that's kind of more of a bold prediction. I think a more realistic take is I'm going to agree with Tyler and say he's going to go join the Toronto Blue Jays and give them the rotation help they need. Nelson Cruz of the Minnesota Twins. Obviously, the Twins are not doing very well. They're very unlikely to make the playoffs this year. Cruz is in the last year of his contract. I think it's possible that if he keeps playing, he re-signs with the Twins, but I do personally think before that would happen, he's going to get traded, and I think he's getting traded to the Oakland A's. Give them another big. Obviously they are an AL team, so they've got the DH spot, and he's going to give them another big power bat as they try to push for the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with Ben. I think he's going to go to the A's as well.
I like the Oakland A's fit. I think that's a decent spot. Obviously, an AL team would be the team to likely make the move with the DH. I don't think he's really capable of playing the outfield anymore. I think if an NL team's very desperate, I could maybe see it, but very, very, very unlikely. Kind of a crazy pick, but I do think Nelson Cruz will be going to the AL East and joining the Boston Red Sox. I know they don't need very much lineup help, but the Boston Red Sox, if they see an opportunity to go for a guy like Nelson Cruz, obviously he's 40 years old, maybe even older than that, 41 potentially.
Yeah, I don't see Nelson Cruz.
Nate, where do you see JD Martinez playing?
Yeah, exactly.
JD
I think about
Martinez,
Jeff Dingers.
I think JD's more capable of playing left field than people give him credit for. I don't think he can play a good left field, but I think JD Martinez in left field is viable enough to where you'd take that bit of a hit, especially with Alex Verdugo in center, giving him a ton of
I feel like it's not a need.
Add the bat of Nelson Cruz. I agree, it's not a need, but I think the Red Sox are going to see an opportunity to go all in, add an incredible bat like Nelson Cruz, and I know it's maybe not the most common or agreeable pick, but that's what I see going down.
This is potentially Nate's first bad take of the podcast.
Yeah, we're used to this, folks.
Remember this.
Hey, man.
Shit. This is the same guy, Shohei Ohtani, overrated.
Yeah. Okay, we'll talk about that later.
I thought,
Kevin go.
All
right, Kevin go.
Kevin just go.
At one point, whatever, I'm not clearing that up.
All right, one team that I could maybe see Nelson Cruz going to, and this is a little bit of a dark horse, but I think possibly the Tampa Bay Rays. They have been using Austin Meadows as a DH, so maybe they don't want to do that, but Austin Meadows is definitely more capable of playing defense than definitely JD Martinez, and he's a lot younger, so I think he's more capable of sort of improving his defensive skills maybe, but I think that he could be a good fit there, or maybe possibly the Blue Jays. I think both of those could be very good fits for Nelson Cruz. Next and probably last player we're going to be talking about is Max Scherzer of the Washington Nationals. He's been rumored in a lot of trade rumors, and personally this is the one player on this list that I don't see going anywhere. I think the Nationals hold on to Scherzer. He's having quite possibly the best year of his career, and sure, his value would be high, but he's also 36, and so that might cause people to not give up as much for a half-a-year rental of a 36-year-old pitcher. Again, he is an ace, but I could see the Nationals potentially going for it this year, or at least just standing pat and not changing too much at the deadline. So I predict that Scherzer's not going to move.
I agree. I'm going to agree with Kevin here. I've said everybody else on our list is getting traded, but I also think Scherzer's not going anywhere. We're going to talk about surprise buyers and sellers in a bit. So just kind of spoiler alert, my surprise buyer was going to be the Nationals. So obviously if they're surprise buyers in my eyes, then I don't think they're going to be selling Scherzer.
Yeah, I agree with these two as well. I don't see Scherzer getting moved. I think Max Scherzer, while he would have good value on the market, I just don't see the real bright side to the Nationals doing this. I don't think they're crazy far off, and I think you give them an offseason to potentially re-sign Max Scherzer, add a couple pieces, get some guys healthy, and hopefully make a push next season.
Alright, so I was going to say he's going to stay, but for the content,
Let's go.
He is... Oh, I know. Max Scherzer will be a Los Angeles Dodger.
No, stop.
What are you talking about? That is
That's disgusting.
I'm just kidding. I had him not moving, but we all picked the same thing, so.
Yeah,
that's just disgusting,
That's
Tyler.
a crime against humanity.
Who wants to see Max Scherzer in Dodger blue? All right, so keeping in the same theme of the deadline, our next couple of topics are just talking about what teams we think are going to surprise a lot of people. And this first one, who do we think is going to make the biggest splash at the deadline? Which team is going to surprise us the most with their buying capabilities? And Ben already alluded to this with the Washington Nationals. So, Ben, you want to expand on that a little bit more?
Well, I was going to say the Nationals for the next conversation topic. I see the Nats as... I will expand on it, though. I see the Nats as surprise buyers. However, if we're talking about biggest splash, I don't think they're landing like a big name player. For biggest splash, I'm gonna have to go with the Blue Jays. I said about, I don't know when in the video it was, probably like 20 minutes ago in the video, that the Blue Jays are gonna land Chris Bryant. And so I think that'll be kind of the biggest splash move we get. Either that or the Atlanta Braves getting Trevor Story.
Personally, I think the biggest splash move is going to be Kimbrel to the Oakland A's. Obviously, the Oakland is usually not a team that buys a lot of expensive players. And with Kimbrel having another year on his contract, he could potentially be expensive for the A's next year. So he might be a player that they trade for this year, and then they end up having to move him in the offseason because he's too expensive for them. But I don't see the A's having a lockdown closer right now. They've been linked in a lot of trade rumors, and Kimbrel might be one of the biggest possessions or trade pieces on the market. So he could definitely be moving to the A's. That's one thing that I potentially see.
I have the biggest deadline splash. Being a team inside Chicago, and it's not the Chicago Cubs, I think the Chicago White Sox are going to make a huge move at the deadline. And I'm not exactly sure what it's going to be. I think it could be a big-time player that we haven't talked about that could surprisingly get traded. I also think it could be a multitude of guys. I think we could see maybe them go for, as I said, Eduardo Escobar, maybe a bullpen piece, just an extra guy. But I think they're going to buy more than people are anticipating, and the Sox are going to make a big move to go all out for the World Series despite all their injuries.
I think it'll be the Mets landing Bryant, and they'll be able to re-sign him. So it'll just make them very good long term.
Kind of the opposite of this. Who do we think is going to be the surprise seller of the deadline? Someone that people aren't talking about is giving up somebody, but they potentially could give up somebody big. Who do you guys think that would be?
All right, I've got a spicy take. A surprise seller is the Cleveland Indians. That's not a spicy take, but I think I know they're over 500 and not that far out of a playoff spot, but I think honestly, after trading Lindor and Clevenger and all these other guys, that roster is just not good enough to compete anymore. And I think the Indians front office, their owners are pretty cheap, frankly, and I think they're going to realize that they're not all that good a team anymore, and they're going to start tearing it down. And this is where the spicy take comes in. And I think this is also something that could be seen as a potential biggest splash, since we just talked about that. But I think Jose Ramirez is going to get traded to the New York Mets.
Sticking in the AL Central, I have another team that I think could be sellers. And again, maybe not a surprise to people that have been looking at their record, but the Kansas City Royals definitely have some pieces that could be moved. Specifically, I'm talking about Salvador Perez and Whit Merrifield. They're two all-stars this year. And those are some pretty valuable pieces. They might be maybe top 5 potential trade pieces of the trade deadline, and not a lot of people are talking about them, but I definitely see those as pieces that people would probably give up a lot of prospects in order to acquire those two guys, and they would definitely change the playoff picture quite a bit if they did go on the move.
My biggest surprise seller actually has almost nothing to do with the team. It's the player. I think the Arizona Diamondbacks are going to end up selling Ketel Marte. Ketel Marte would be a super hot name on the market. He can play a multitude of positions. Obviously, great hitter. We've seen it. He can play defense. He's an absolute superstar. And they could get a huge package for them to jumpstart a rebuild.
Nate, who is he going to, do you think, if you had to guess?
If I had to guess, I'm going to be honest. I think an organization with a lot of prospects and potentially a need for a guy like Ketel Marte is the New York Yankees.
Oh, yeah. I like it.
All right, my surprise seller that's not really a surprise is the Indians, but the player that's getting sold will be a surprise. It's going to be Shane Bieber
Damn.
if the Blue Jays don't land Marquez.
Ooh, I like that.
Ooh, I like that. I like that a
Spicy.
lot.
Personally, I don't see the Indians moving Bieber because I just feel like they have too much trust in their future to move a top 5 pitcher in baseball.
They breed top 5 pitching.
That's true.
Yeah, that is true, and they've shown the willingness to do it in the past. Personally, I don't see it, but I could be wrong.
Do you see the Jose Ramirez trade?
I do see that, maybe a little bit more because he has been in trade talks before, and they've been willing to trade Lindor.
Yeah, I agree.
But
I agree. I could see I actually believe he'd get traded this offseason, if not at the deadline.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Bieber's way less likely, but they've shown that they'll do it with anyone.
Yeah.
Any top pitcher, and then they'll just find new ones.
All right. Surprise buyers?
I'm going to kind of piggyback and maybe jump in front of Ben here. My surprise buyer is the Washington Nationals. As I previously mentioned in this video, Trey Turner was a bold pick of mine. I think Trey Turner's gonna have a phenomenal second half of the season, absolutely take off, elevate himself into an MVP conversation. And we saw it in 2019. The Nationals had a good team, didn't have a good first half. I think it's a similar situation here. I think the Nationals team is very good. Obviously, they just lost Kyle Schwarber, who was huge for them when they started to get hot. I think Schwarber is going to come back, not be that good. Obviously, it was a historic month, but I think he's going to be serviceable. I could see them making a big move for some lineup or some pitching, especially in the bullpen, and try to get into that divisional race where it's pretty much wide open as seeing Ronald Acuna get hurt.
I'm gonna agree with Nate. I've already mentioned that the Nationals are my surprise buyer. They are under 500, but like Nate said, although I still think the Mets are gonna win the division, with Acuna hurt, this really is kind of anyone's game right now. And I think the Nationals are gonna take that in full stride. I don't think they're gonna make it, but I think they're gonna try. Players they could potentially acquire. To be honest, I could see the Nationals getting Adam Frazier. I could also see them going after someone like Eduardo Escobar. I think that could be a potentially good fit. I don't predict that they'll get either of those guys, obviously, because we've already talked about predictions. But, I think those are possibilities of guys they could go after. And really, I think they're going to kind of surprise us by not selling Scherzer and instead trying to build up their team for a possible playoff run.
This is a team that I alluded to earlier in the video as a team that is not trying to win this year, but I think they definitely could make a splash, and that's the Seattle Mariners. They've not only been a surprise team. Tyler, are you good, buddy?
Just go.
Okay. Anyways, I think that the Seattle Mariners could definitely. They've been a surprise team both of the last 2 years, and they're not going to go out and make like a huge move that would ruin their future. But I definitely see the Seattle Mariners getting some pieces that are going to help around the edges of the team and make them a lot better than people realize, and definitely put them in strong contention for the wild card spots.
So we're going to edit this, and it's going to be like Tyler picks the Mariners and Kevin copies. So my pick is the Mariners. As we see later in the podcast, Kevin will actually say his pick is the Mariners, but he just copied me. And I think they're going to end up buying because they're actually playing good baseball. And they can, I don't even know who they're going to buy, but they're just going to try to get back in the playoffs, and who knows when you're in the playoffs you're in. And we'll see if anyone copies me later.
All right. Next topic that we are going to move away from the trade deadline here. We're going to be talking about over and underachievers at the second half. And once again, this is just kind of a shot in the dark. Who do you guys think is going to really suck after having a strong first half? And who do you think is going to bounce back from maybe underperforming? I'm going to start this out by saying basically the team that I always predict to overachieve, which would be the Miami Marlins. Last year I predicted that they'd make the playoffs, and they did. And this year I still think that they would be good. They are many games below 500, but they also have a positive run differential. Obviously that doesn't mean everything, but I think they're better than people give them a lot of credit for. I see the Marlins really taking off in the second half, and as long as they don't sell, which they might end up selling. They did trade Corey Dickerson earlier a couple weeks ago, but I see the Marlins having a very strong team and definitely capable of making some noise in the NL East, which is a division that not a lot of people have really staked a claim to. Like, we're here, we're going to win this division. I think it's really anybody's game there. And then as for underachievers, I think the Milwaukee Brewers are really not this good. Their pitching staff has carried them the entire way, and I doubt that Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff, they're very good pitchers, and Freddie Peralta as well. I just don't see them keeping up this exact level of dominance the entire way through, and their bullpen has been good too, and again, I see them falling back a little bit, and then their offense is just atrocious. They're just, to me, they don't have the makeup of a first-place team, and again, that could be my Cubs bias saying that, but I feel like they've shown that they are just kind of getting a little bit lucky with their success. I don't think that they're going to keep this up.
So I think Kevin got overachiever and underachiever, like he used the words backwards, but that's okay. We know
He
what
definitely
he meant.
did.
Yeah, we know what he meant. But
It's all right. We're good. We know what you meant.
For my overachievers, I've got 3 overachievers listed here. The first is the San Francisco Giants. I think a lot of people can agree on that. I'm sorry, I know the Giants fans want them to do well, make the playoffs, obviously,
Yes.
but Buster Posey's not going to keep putting up a 900 OPS.
Yes.
Brandon Crawford not going to keep putting up a 900 OPS. It's like the Giants, they're not a bad team by any means, but I think they're definitely overachieving. They're not going to win the NL West. That's not going to happen. Anyways, moving on. My second team I got overachieving is the Seattle Mariners. We talked about them as potentially surprise buyers, and they're only a couple games out of a playoff spot, actually. But I just don't think they're that good yet. I think they're going to implode in the second half. I don't think there's any way they're going to make the playoffs or keep playing over 500 even, possibly. And lastly, my last overachieving team, this could be a slightly biased pick, to be honest, but I've got the Boston Red Sox. They're, again, not a bad team. They do have a really good offense. I will give them that. J.D. Martinez, Xander Bogaerts, Alex Verdugo, all those guys are beasts. But like, at the same time, that pitching staff relying on Nathan Eovaldi and Nick Pivetta, like, that's not gonna keep happening. That pitching staff, even if they get Craig Kimbrell, they got Kimbrell, they got Barnes, Chris Sale potentially coming back, but like, outside of that, they have basically no pitching at all. And for me, the Red Sox pitching staff is just not good enough to sustain performance over the rest of the full season. However, I think they could possibly, just based on how well they played so far, they could hang on to like a wild card spot. Underachievers, obviously the New York Yankees. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because we're going to talk about them later, but I think that's an obvious one. Also, the Minnesota Twins, obviously underperforming a ton. I don't necessarily think they're going to bounce back, but they're just not playing well. Then the Atlanta Braves, also underperforming so far, and with Acuna hurt, I think it's possible they also don't bounce back and just keep playing like at a 500 level, basically. And lastly, I've got the St. Louis Cardinals. They made a big splash with the Nolan Arenado trade, but they're under 500. I believe they're had the same record as the Cubs, actually. So they're definitely underperforming expectations so far. And honestly, I don't see the Cardinals being able to bounce back and make the playoffs, in my eyes.
So for overachievers, I have the Red Sox for the same reasons as Ben. Like, they have a good makeup of a team, but like, this is pretty unsustainable how well they're playing in that division. I also have the Rays, but it's like they're not really overachieving anymore because they do it every year, so it's like you just expect it. And then I have the Giants because there's literally no way this team keeps it up. They're not going to win that division. And then underachievers, I have the Yankees because just look at their record. The Twins, yeah. The Cubs, if you see where they were like a month ago, they have just been horrible. So I don't know if it's underachieving or just like going back to where you should be, but that was awful.
Oh my God.
The Cardinals, for the same reason as Ben, like, you have a pretty good team and you're just awful. And then this is pretty much from injuries, but it's hard not to say the Dodgers are underachieving if you're not winning your division after winning the World Series.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of those takes, but my teams that I believe currently are overachieving, I think the San Francisco Giants are slightly overachieving. I don't think they're going to win that division, but I think they are a good team. I think they still will make the playoffs. I think they are still definitely a threat, but I don't think they're quite as good as they're playing. I also think another overachiever so far has been the Milwaukee Brewers, just because, as Kevin alluded to, their offense is just terrible. I think the Brewers are still a good team because they do have such a good pitching staff. I think they should try to get in, be even better because their offense is so bad. They're doing this with a terrible offense. If they had a good offense, they'd be so much better. For some underachievers, a couple fringe ones, I think the Cardinals and the Braves, again, I think they're a little bit more towards injuries, so I'm not really going to blame them for that, but I do agree with those. And I think the Cubs also are underachieving. I know they didn't have high expectations, but as a Cubs fan, I expected more out of this group, and I thought we'd be able to do well, especially with our hot start. And yeah, that's about it.
All right, so Kevin and Nate said the Brewers are overachieving, right? Who did you think was going to win the division?
I thought the Reds were going to win the division.
I thought the Reds.
Either the Reds or the Cubs, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I thought the Reds. It was between us.
I saw the Brewers as a
Cardinals and
fourth
Reds.
place
I
team
expected-
going into the year.
Actually?
Yeah, same. I
Yeah.
thought Pirates were 5, Brewers were the 4, and it was us, Cardinals, and Reds mixing for the top 3.
I'm gonna
I feel like
hardly
the pitching
disagree
is
on the
so
Brewers,
loaded.
but I'm
Yeah.
gonna talk about the Brewers
yeah,
later.
well,
So I'm gonna talk
didn't-
about the Brewers later. So I'm gonna say
I
this for
disagree
them.
as well, also. I feel like they are a first place. I don't know. I
In
mean,
my
the division
opinion, they're a
isn't great,
first place
so
team in
anyone
the NL
can be a
Central.
first place.
They're not
Yeah,
a
I
first
kind of
place team
agree.
in like the AL East, but in the NL
Yeah, I
Central, I think
agree.
they definitely are.
Yeah, I agree. They're the most stacked, I feel like, out of any of those teams.
That's a,
But look at their offense. They're starting Jackie Bradley Jr. and Keston Hira every
every
single day.
2018 Red Sox won 108 games and started Jackie Bradley Jr. every game.
He wasn't this bad back then, though.
That's
yeah, but
true,
look at the
he was
teams
still
in their
pretty bad
division. Like, the
offensively.
Cubs suck this year. Like, they're just not playing good. The Pirates obviously suck. And then you're dealing with the Reds. Like, I mean, it's...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It makes sense
I
they're
agree,
winning the
Tyler.
division.
And the
at this
Cardinals,
point,
I guess.
do
But the
think
Cardinals
that
are playing
they're-
bad as well.
I don't think their roster's as good.
It could be a product of everyone else just, like, playing bad. Like,
Yeah,
no one is playing
could be.
good in that division, really.
Yeah, speaking of the Yankees, they've sucked this year. Ben is a Yankees fan as well as a Cubs fan. Ben, do you want to explain a little bit, help us understand what is going on in the Bronx?
No, I want to go last. I want all you to offer your takes first. I'm curious.
Okay, well, I haven't been following the Yankees too
Yeah.
religiously, so I don't really
All right,
know
do you
what
want me
the
to just talk
problem
about
is.
Yeah, you should
Yeah,
go.
I
You
got-
should just
I got-
go.
Okay, so basically, the Yankees, I mean, to be honest, they haven't even been that bad. Like, they're over 500 and only 4 games out of a playoff spot, but still, f***ing disaster. Just when you consider, like, the fact that they're supposed to be one of the best teams in baseball and this is how they're playing, it's just absolutely an abysmal performance. Also, some of the least clutch, aside from triple plays, some of the least clutch playing I've ever seen. Just, like, not even fun to watch
Ben, don't
sometimes
say that word.
anymore. And,
Don't
my god.
Don't do that to me.
Don't do what?
Triple plays.
Triple plays.
White
Yeah,
Sox-
yeah, remember
White
that?
Sox
That
are
was
one of
really
those
fun.
that's toxic.
So,
It's really fun.
basically, we got some I've got some stats that I researched last night, and I want to dive into why the Yankees have been struggling. So, first thing, you can't talk about the Yankees without mentioning their injuries. We got, first of all, Luke Voigt, then Corey Kluber, Luis Severino still out, Aaron Hicks, Zach Britton, who just came back, but he has been injured. So those guys are all some of the key players they have. Kluber threw a no-hitter earlier this year, so that's definitely part of the reason why they're struggling. But unlike previous years when they struggled, it's not just all injuries. They've got a lot more behind it. The team OPS plus is 98, which is 2% below average, obviously, if you know how OPS plus works. Their team slugging is .394, which is 17th in the MLB, and the league average is 403. But it doesn't stop there, it just gets worse as you go into these, really. They grounded into 87 double plays, which is second in the MLB. They've left 616 runners on base, which is 8th in the MLB. And when a runner gets on base, like, of all the runners they've had on base, only 27% of them have scored, which is the second worst percentage in the MLB. They have 35 outs on the base paths, which is second in the MLB. And their rate of taking extra bases is 33%, which is the worst in the MLB. So it all comes down to they've been leaving runners on base, grounding into double plays like crazy, making stupid base running decisions, and basically giving the other team free outs. And I think a lot of those Yankees struggles have just come down to, like, the fundamentals of things they've been doing wrong. And obviously I have all these stats to back it up, but you don't even need them. If you're like me, obviously, and you watch a lot of Yankees games, you can see this stuff happening. Like, how many just dumb base running decisions they make, how many runners they leave on base. It's really a big problem. And on top of that, you've just got guys who have been underperforming, like DJ LeMahieu, Gleyber Torres, Brett Gardner, Clint Frazier, Jameson Taillon. Aroldis Chapman was fantastic at first, but he's been struggling lately. Giancarlo Stanton has been having a good season overall, but, like, he's been very streaky, very hot and cold. You know, he'll go through a week where he's the best player in baseball, and the next week he'll strike out every single at-bat. So it's just like, you know, we need more consistency out of guys other than Aaron Judge, really, and Garrett Cole, too. So really, I think that's what everything I just said is what it comes down to, and that's what has happened to the Yankees this far this year. However, I do think they're going to have a good second half.
So it seems fixable.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of ground to make up in a
everything-
stacked division.
Everything Ben just mentioned, honestly, really just as a Cubs fan, like, I understand he's a Yankees fan, so he's gonna be upset about it. But honestly, as a Cubs fan, this team is just like a meme to me at this point. Like, I get they have injuries all the time, but it seems like this is every year we have this conversation where they're so talented, but they don't put it together, and, like, there's all these excuses I feel like that are made up. I feel like at the end of the day, the Yankees just need to get some better players. I know they have a lot of good players. Like, I'm not going to be completely negative. Aaron Judge is great. Stanton, I think, is a lot better than his stats say, just because I know he deals with a lot of injuries, as we've said. LeMahieu's having a down year. I still think TJ LeMahieu's a great player. Luke Voigt's pretty solid. Gleyber Torres is terrible. That's the one guy I'm not going to show any mercy.
Yeah,
Why
but
is Brett Gardner on the team? Aaron Hicks. Like, I just feel like that team is they have a lot of overpaid players. I think they need to kind of take a step back and get some more value players.
Yeah, but the injuries like matter. Like, you look at some teams that are just like destroyed with injuries, and that was them in the past.
No, the injuries do matter, but like unlike in previous years,
it's not as much this year.
It's not
exactly.
the main reason this year. The main reason is they've been playing bad instead of the injuries.
Yeah, exactly.
But the injuries are like a supporting factor.
Aaron Boone fired at the deadline?
I think Aaron Boone is getting his contract. By the way, Aaron Boone's contract runs out this year, so I do not think he's coming back.
Yeah, there's no way. Especially if you miss the playoffs.
If they re-sign Aaron Boone, I think Yankees fans should just like be Mets fans. Like, there's no going back.
Anybody else have anything else to add about the Yankees? Non-Yankees fans.
Just stay bad. Stay bad.
They suck, but no one likes the Yankees.
Thank you for the words of encouragement, guys. I really appreciate it.
Brutal team, won't be good.
I mean, I'll give you some words of encouragement. Yankee Stadium's it's sad you're slugging like that low at Yankee Stadium, and maybe that'll turn around.
Personally, I just take a look at the Corey Kluber no-hitter performance where you had like Miguel Andujar playing the outfield, and I don't know who else was playing the outfield, but it's just totally not. It's kind of like the White Sox where you have people that shouldn't be playing the outfield playing the outfield. And Gleyber Torres has been bad this year. DJ LeMahieu's been bad this year. Luke Voigt, I think we all knew he wasn't going to keep up his success from 2020.
Well, hey, Luke Voigt, it comes down. I didn't mention him in underperformers because he's been injured most of the season.
Gary Sanchez somehow is finally remembering how to hit. I didn't think that I would ever say those words again. But again, their pitching staff is also very not great, I guess you could say.
Good.
Yeah, it was good, but now Aroldis Chapman's
even
like
with
the worst
Chapman
pitcher in baseball.
We've got a lot of good bullpen guys. Jonathan Loaizaga has been nasty.
Yeah,
we need Chapman to fix himself for sure. Oh, also, I want to mention, Kevin, thank you for reminding me. I forgot to mention it. Praise Gary Sanchez, All-Star snub.
Tim Anderson didn't get in a bat in the All-Star game. That's fucking bullshit. You can
okay,
just
that's not
that.
what we're talking about.
That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Ridiculous. I can't even spell that, but that's what it is.
See, there was a while there where I was genuinely wondering how Gary Sanchez had a job in the MLB, because it felt like he couldn't hit. I don't think he can field, even so. I think he's got a good arm, but he's not a good defensive catcher outside of his arm. I mean, I was really confused for a while to how he was playing, but credit to him, he's turned it around and hit in a big way this year.
We've been talking about overachievers, underachievers, stuff like that for the last few minutes or so. And, I mean, we made a lot of bold predictions throughout this podcast. Everybody has, but especially Nate, because that's just what he likes to do. And most of them are wrong. But Nate, do you have any more? Do you have any more bold predictions for us, Mr. Nate? I'm sure you do.
Your favorite segment.
Okay,
Nate, do you think that, first of all, Nate, do you think that Shohei Ohtani is overrated?
Also, talk about the Cubs making the playoffs, in your opinion. How do you think they're going to make it?
So at one point, I did say Ohtani was overrated as a hitter because I thought people valued his pitching and considered him a better hitter because he also pitched. 33. I thought it was improved his hitting. See, I've kind of started to realize Ohtani's still obviously he's a great hitter. I don't think he's overrated anymore. But at one point in time, I was saying he was overrated just because I just didn't think it was sustainable. Man, Ohtani's very, very good. And I was just an idiot at that point. But at one point, I thought the Cubs were going to make the playoffs. I don't anymore because, as we know, the Cubs traded Jock yesterday, and I think the Cubs are going to sell. At one point, I thought we weren't going to sell, but now I do, so I don't see it happening. But as a kind of a bold prediction, that's also not a bold prediction. Back to the Jock Peterson thing. Before yesterday, and the Braves acquiring Jock Peterson, I thought the Braves were going to be my surprise seller, and Freddie Freeman would be the player. But that's obviously not happening anymore, considering they're buying and going for a wide-open division. But with Acuna down, I just thought they'd just trade him for a ton and get off that, but that's about it I have for bold predictions.
My bold prediction is that Shohei Ohtani's hitting 60 home runs this year, and there's no other explanation.
Okay.
But that's my bold prediction.
Okay. My bold prediction is that Shohei Ohtani is going to hit 157 home runs and break the record.
Yes, that's also
Yeah.
going to happen.
Okay, so
JaVale
I've got-
McGee is on Team USA. Okay, keep going.
In all seriousness, I've got a couple bold predictions. One of them, I don't know how bold this is, but I'm going to list it on here anyways because I think some people will consider it bold. Giants and Red Sox are imploding, both of them, and they're going to both miss the playoffs. That doesn't really need... We talked a lot about both of them already. I don't want to talk about it more, so that doesn't really need explanation. Next up, I'm going to say Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to win the Triple Crown. He's going to get the Triple Crown, but he's not going to win MVP. Because Shohei Ohtani's performance as a two-way player is just going to be so dominant that he's going to win anyways. Next up, I think the Chicago Cubs... Okay, I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but I do think they're actually going to finish over 500. And I think the St. Louis Cardinals are going to finish under 500.
I agree with that.
And lastly...
Zero bias happening here.
Zero bias at all on that pick. And lastly, this is probably my spiciest one. I think the Padres are going to win the NL West, and the Dodgers are going to get knocked out in the wild card game by the Reds.
All right, mine are, well, this isn't a prediction. The Giants are falling. It's going to happen. It's not a prediction
Facts.
or bold. The Cubs will not finish above 500, but I agree with your Vlad thing. He's going to hit the Triple Crown and not win MVP.
Yeah.
Eloy Jimenez is going to come back and hit 15 daddy hacks. And this is the greatest bold prediction of all time.
Yeah.
The AL wild card will have a three-way tie for second place.
Damn.
The A's, the Blue
If that
Jays, and the
happens-
Yankees.
Dude, that'd be insane.
That would be honestly
I
one
would
of the
love
most
that.
like entertaining things to unfold. To just
And I
see
looked
that
it up.
happen.
It goes into like a round robin.
Yeah, I know. It's
Yeah,
That's
it's crazy.
like insane.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
That
That'd
would be
fun. That'd
great
fun.
for baseball.
Insane. That would be great for baseball. Literally
As
insane.
long as the
think
Yankees won, that'd be good for baseball.
I
bias.
mean, would it be though? I mean, would it be good for baseball? I mean,
Yes.
Fred, all this pace of play
Yes,
stuff.
Nate.
Might not like having to make the wild card that long.
That would be
Nate, it would
insane
good
for
for
baseball.
That'd be,
He
that'd be,
loves
like, great.
expansion. He loves expansion of the playoffs.
Yeah, dude, Manfred is terrible. I was,
Manfred
joking
would
there,
honestly
but yeah, no.
prefer all 30. Manfred
All
would
32
love it
teams
if
in a
the
March Madness style game. They would
Manfred's
love that.
Manfred's gonna carry the D-backs to a World Series title this year.
Literally.
Yeah.
Dude, Manfred, but I mean, that's you need it. Manfred's a whole different topic. We don't need to get into
Manfred
him,
is a man
Man
fraud.
fraud.
but, like Manfred's a
LaMelo.
joke.
Rob
Probably
Manfred,
the worst.
Rob Manfred, if you're watching this,
When?
please
When
figure
you're
out.
watching this? When?
Yeah, Rob Manfred, when you're watching this, please figure out what you're doing with your life and get it together, please. For the sake of all baseball fans everywhere, please just start figuring your stuff out.
Speaking of Rob Manfred, the shift is the worst. Is one of, I can't even say the worst because he just brings in rules from MLB to show franchises, and they end up in the MLB where you're doing it in the playoffs. But anyway, the NHL at one point was so offensive that you couldn't pass more than a line. You had to go line to line. It's like station to station. But then the defense got so good that they had to advance it, and you had to be able to stretch patch, which is like your own zone to the middle of the ice. Then like it's just like longer passes. Because defense was getting better. Rob Manfred wants to just talk about, we need runs, we need balls in play, but he doesn't want to do anything about it. The pitchers are better. They can't hit it where they want. You need to make it 2 on each side. You need to advance your game like the NBA did when they made a 3-point line. You can't be playing like it's the 1900s.
I'm gonna agree with Tyler. I honestly, to be honest, I kind of like the shift. I think it's a strategy aspect, and it's how teams win games, and I think that's great. And to add more strategy to the game is great. However, I'm gonna agree that for the greater good of the sport, we need to do a rule where you can have 2 fielders on each side of second base. The thing is, the shift. What happens when you shift a batter and that batter can't hit ground balls to the other side? They always hit into the shift. They start sinking. They got to hit it over the shift. They start swinging for a home run every time, and they strike out. That is why the shift is a huge reason why we have so many problems with batters striking out, like the 3 true outcomes of just like strike out and home run and walk all the time. So if you want to fix that and bring back some more small ball, we need to get some regulation on the shift, and I think that starts. I don't think we should totally ban it, but I think 2 on each side of the base is a fair compromise for the greater good.
I'm a huge strategy guy. I love strategy in baseball. I also love small ball in baseball, National League, double shift or double switch, all that stuff. I agreed. I was like, okay, hitters just need to be better and learn how to do this. They can't. Like if it was that easy, they'd do it.
Okay,
There are
some
guys
guys can
who-
do it, but for the better of the overall sport.
The strategy now is just to swing for home runs to avoid the shift. So if you want even if your belief is that they can do it, which I would probably agree with, if you want to improve the game and move it forward and kind of like not have the meta just be the home run and strike out forever, then we need to regulate the shift to move the game forward.
All right, yeah, I can get on board with that, but I don't think it should be like eliminated entirely, where you have like people in designated 5-foot
No,
zones
No,
all
like
the time.
two,
Two
on
on
each
two.
side of the base.
Two
Shift
on
them however
two.
you want.
Yeah,
within
I
two
say
on each side.
I agree with that. Like I
Yeah.
agree with that thing.
Yeah.
There's some people that say
No.
fielders need to be in regulated
No,
places.
I
for
disagree
every
with
single
that too.
at-bat.
I think it's
That's
2 on each
stupid.
side of
You couldn't-
on second
you
base.
couldn't be
Play them
infield,
wherever you
like,
want.
You need to be able to do anything. Just not.
And
Play
then
them wherever you
outfield,
want.
you
You
can
need
shift
2
however
on
you
each
want.
side.
We should not have third baseman on the right side of second base. Playing
there's a clip, if you can
in
find
the middle
it.
of right field and second base. Like
Kevin, there's a
It's
clip that you could
completely
show on this
ridiculous.
where Manny Machado, a third baseman, is diving for a wall ball in right
Yeah.
field.
Yeah, I
A
saw
wall
that.
ball. There's a clip of him diving for a wall ball in right field.
the shift is so
ridiculous.
over excessive at this point. I like this strategy, but we need to simplify it. We need to simplify. It can't be this crazy. Cause like it, yeah, we
Just
want people
advance
to
your
put the
game.
ball in. We want people to put the ball in play, and there's guys like Jason Hayward who get shifted. And I believe, at least he was for a while, he had the hardest average exit velo on the Cubs. He was hitting it over 100 miles per hour average. It was a ground ball every time, and he was hitting like 190. Like, I mean, obviously you need to have a mix of line drives, even like home run swings, ground balls, all that stuff. But like hitting the ball hard isn't enough anymore when we have the shift. We need players to be able to just like drop down a bunt, like do this stuff, swing and hit the ball, and not be a 105-mile-an-hour ground out to a third baseman in right center field. Like,
You should be able to hit the ball in the gap on the right side and it get through, and not to be a second baseman in the outfield waiting for it. It's like ridiculous.
I agree with that. Unless the second
And the
baseman wants to
viewer.
play there.
Right, but the viewer doesn't even know.
Yeah.
We don't even know when they're shifting half the time. We're like, oh, that's a ground ball in the
Yeah.
gap. Nope, there's 3 guys standing there. It's like,
Yeah. And back to what I was saying about Hayward, he's not slow. He can't even drop down a bunt because they still have a guy at third base. Like the way, and that obviously would stay with 2 guys on the base. But like the point is, the shift just eliminates players' options. If all you can do is hit the ball hard and put it in play, that's all you can really do as a hitter. These pitchers are so talented. I mean, there's really like. Think about how hard it is to hit a baseball. Trying to control where it goes at a major league level
it's like-
is nearly impossible for 90% of hitters.
they just gotta. This isn't the same game it was when it was like 1920. It does not. You gotta switch it.
Like I believe I saw something where the average pitch velocity in I think it was the 1920s, maybe 30s or 40s, the average fastball was like 85. That isn't like a changeup now. Like the hitting, the off-speed pitches are used more. Everything's faster. Everything comes in harder. The hitters just don't have as much time to focus on their approach. They just have to hit the ball. And if that means they're going to pull it onto the ground, that means they're going to have to pull it into the ground. And there needs to not be 4 guys waiting for that to happen. On one
In
side
the
of field.
comments, keep or ban the shift. In the comments, keep
Or like do
ban the
like
shift.
a compromise like we
Or
suggest.
modify.
Yeah, or the 2 and 2.
Modify or ban. Like we need to like really fix like. There's
Personally,
just no
I'm-
way
I'm totally
Major League
fine
Baseball
with-
can continue with this.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with there being 2 people on each side as long as
Same.
you're limited to that.
Same.
I don't have a
I would
problem with
love
that.
that. I'd love that.
I've seen an
'Cause I
idea where
agree,
you
I
get a
like-
limited number of, you get a set number of shifts where you can move the shortstop to the other side or second base to the other side every game, which isn't a terrible idea, but it gets like a little dicey depending on how many at bats the other team is getting and all
Yeah.
that. Like
That's
how many
not that
times.
But
bad.
they
I
get
like
all
the
of
introduction of that strategy, though, personally.
it. Yeah, same.
If you did like
I-
3
I-
times per game, you could move the shortstop to the other side of second base.
Exactly. It is interesting, but it's just
Yeah.
another idea to fix it.
Yeah, I feel like there's no way to eliminate.
Because that
this.
would actually
Maybe-
that would be the 2 and 2. That would be the 2 and 2 except 3 times a game basically.
Like I don't know how we can continue with this or with the. I feel like there has to be modified because you can't eliminate it. Like we can't have no infield in or infield back. Outfielders are going to shift, and I feel like they should be able to play deep. They should be able to play in.
the outfielders can move over because it's
Yeah,
way
I don't
easier
think
to get a
that's
ground
bad for
ball
the game.
through.
I don't think the outfield
I
moving
think
around is
it's
bad for the game.
the
In and out.
extreme infield shifts
Yeah,
need
I
to be
agree.
fixed.
It's the
And
huge
like,
infield
there's
shift.
no way to eliminate the shift completely. There's no
Yeah.
way to do it, and I don't think they should regardless.
They just need to make it 2-2. Let the outfield do what they want, like they always do. I mean, the outfield. If you're shifting like a ton on the outfield, you're just gonna get screwed more than it helps. You
And
can't
with
really
no
shift
ground
the outfield.
ball, crazy shifts. If a ball gets through the infield,
Right, it could
the
be a
outfielders
triple.
could be screwed. So. Very last topic is the who we think is winning the pennant in both leagues, and potentially any dark horses to
And-
do so.
A dark horse from both sides, and your favorite from both sides.
All right, so before the season, I predicted the Dodgers and the White Sox matchup in the World Series. I still have the White Sox doing that. I think the Dodgers would have a lot tougher time to win the World Series because now that they have the resurgence of the San Francisco Giants is suddenly the greatest team to have ever existed. Obviously, as everyone has been saying, they're not going to keep this up, but they're going to have a lot more competition for the division. They won't have as much time to rest before the playoffs as they usually do, which I don't think you can count that out because like normally the Dodgers run their way to the division and they can rest their star players and be all rested up for the playoffs. They're not going to be able to do that this year because it's going to be down to the wire. Even if they do win the division, they're not going to have as much rested time. So people are going to be more drained for the playoffs. They may end up playing in a winner-take-all wild card game or even a round robin, which would be super awesome to see. But I have the Padres winning it. I know they're third in the division right now, but I think they have so much talent. I think they just have that chemistry as well. I have my money on the Padres White Sox World Series, but I also don't think you can count out the Houston Astros as a potential World Series champion team as well. My spring training prediction was actually what Kevin's currently is, Padres White Sox. At the moment, I'm going to have to, I believe, stick with the White Sox as my favorite. I think they're too good with their non-healthy lineup to get a healthy lineup back and not win the pennant. I think the Red Sox are a good dark horse. I think the Red Sox have a good chance of making it. Just that offense is so unstoppable. I get we talked about their pitching isn't great, but their pitchers have been pitching great, and if they keep that up, I think they're a good dark horse. The National League, I had the Padres as spring training, as I said. I now am going to shift that to the Dodgers backwards of what Kevin did. I think the Dodgers just ultimately have too much talent up and down the roster. They've had a ton of injuries this year. They are competing in a very difficult division. And a dark horse in the National League I have is the Cincinnati Reds. I think if the Reds at the deadline go out and add pitching, they're just as good as any team in the MLB.
I picked, so beforehand, like when I was preparing for this, I just picked, like, I didn't pick like a favorite and a dark horse. I just picked like what team I thought it would be, and both my picks were kind of dark horse picks. So first, let me mention favorites. I think the favorite in the AL still has to be the Chicago White Sox. They're just such a good team, as Nate mentioned. They don't even have Eloy and Robert right now. So that is going to be like a huge boost when they get
Madrigal
that
and
back.
Grandal.
And
like, that whole
Madrigal and
team's
Grandal. Well, Madrigal's not coming back this year, is he? But
No, Grandal.
Grandal
will.
is.
shut down.
Grandal will be.
Yes, but Grandal will be back. So that team is going to be really good. They're going to be really hard to beat. I still think they're the favorite. And in the NL, I predicted the Dodgers to lose in the wild card game, I know, but like I think they're probably still the favorite. Either that or, like Kevin said, the San Diego Padres have a really talented roster. However, neither of those guys are my picks. My picks are both more dark horse picks at this point in the season. I'll start with the AL, and this is biased for sure, but it's going to be the New York Yankees. I think they've got especially if they get guys like Gallo or Kyle Gibson or both, they've got a really, really talented roster. They're going to get some guys back from injury. Severino's hopefully going to come back. Along with, they've already got Luke Voigt back. Zach Britton's about to come back. I think he actually just got activated like yesterday. So I think that roster is just going to get a lot better, especially with trade deadline additions. And I think they're going to have a really hot second half, fix some of these issues we've been talking about, get hot in the playoffs, and win the pennant and make it to the World Series. It's going to be close. They're winning it in 7 games over the White Sox. But in the NL, this is kind of a spicy take, but I think my prediction for the World Series is it's the Milwaukee Brewers. I know we talked about their offense being weak. I don't think they're the best team in the league by any means, but I think their pitching, when they've got Burns and Woodruff and Peralta and the bullpen Hader and Devin Williams and all these guys, I think their pitching is going to be so hard to beat, and they're going to get on their offense is going to get on a hot streak. Get guys like Yelich to kind of carry them offensively, basically, and then their pitching is just going to be really good and hard to beat. So I've got a Yankees-Brewers World Series matchup.
Brewers in the World Series. Now that is a take I didn't think I would hear ever.
That is especially from me, but that is what it is.
Okay, so my favorites from both sides are going to be the White Sox, because obviously I think they're going to do well. And I think the Dodgers will wake up with some injury help, and they're going to make a run and win their division and all that. But I also think the Astros could make the World Series as a favorite, but I wouldn't say they're a dark horse. And then I think the Yankees, the thing with them, if they get in the playoffs, they have a good chance because the top end of the rotation is so stacked, and you don't need like 5 starting pitchers in the playoffs because you have off days.
Yeah, and their bullpen
like
is
Cole
good.
will pitch twice or 3 times in a series, so that helps them a lot. But my dark horses are going to be the Oakland A's and the New York Mets. The Mets for the same reason. The top end of the rotation is so stacked. You get DeGrom 3 times in a series, that might be 3 wins.
Yeah, that is a good point.
That's a good point.
I mean, like, there's so much. The good thing about Major League Baseball is there's so much competition, and there's so many teams that have a lot of good players, and if they put it together, they can really compete.
And my champion is the Chicago White Sox in 4 games over Trevor Bauer in jail.
My champion is the New York Yankees in 6 games.
White Sox in 4. Actually in 3. I'm lowering it. White Sox in 3.
My champion is the Padres in 6 games over the White Sox.
I'd take White Sox in 5 over the Dodgers at the moment.
Ooh, with Bauer or without? If Bauer's out, I think we beat him. If he's in, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I really have no idea. If Bauer's
Because they could go Kershaw, Buehler, Bauer,
for like
Kershaw,
Marquez
Buehler,
or
Bauer.
something.
I'd say they take you 6 if Bauer's healthy. If Bauer's not healthy, or not, well,
Healthy.
let's say healthy.
Yeah,
but
he's
we all
healthy,
know what
maybe.
it
Well,
is.
our healthy
Yeah,
lineup
healthy.
could match Kershaw because we just matched the lefty. So we could match Kershaw.
If Bauer's pitching, I think they'd take you 6. If Bauer's not pitching, I think you guys win in 5. Your pitching is just so good. I understand they could go Kershaw, Buehler, Bauer, even if they're back, but I mean, you guys would match that with Lind, Rodon, and Giolito, and that's just as good in my opinion.
It's not going to happen, though.
I mean, that would
It's
just
gonna
have
be
maybe the-
Brewers.
Yankees in 4.
Yankees in 4
That would be
over
maybe the
Brewers.
best pitching matchup in the World Series we've seen, maybe ever. Like, that would
In a
be
while.
unbelievable to see those rotations go head to head.
All right,
all
guys.
this-
Well, that was quite a long podcast, a little bit longer than we anticipated this being, but I appreciate anyone who is still here and listening to it at this point. I hope you enjoyed it. This is obviously the first podcast that the 4 of us have done together, so we're hoping to do more in the future, talk about more baseball-related stuff in the coming months. But if you guys have any suggestions, please feel free to leave those in the comments below, and I'm sure you have some reactions to stuff that we said. I want to start a discussion in the comments section, so be sure to drop some comments, leave some thoughts, all that good stuff. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll hopefully see you soon for another edition of the Rounding the Bases podcast.